account. Selected plans only. Standard monthly charge applies from 2021. Up to 24-month contract applies. All you can eat data. ROI only. See 3.ie.
I work for a living. I work all my days. Who could have predicted this extraordinary phase? Time stood still, the clock kept ticking. Businesses beating, trade still kicking. I'll stay strong, keep my head above water. For me, my customers and my daughter. Adapt to new ways, work wherever I please, get paid on time, manage cash flow with ease. With experts beside me, let's press play. New tomorrows start today.
New Sage Accounting. Try it free for 3 months at sage.ie. Charges apply after third month unless cancelled.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Chasing down the competition with the momentum of a Man United Champions League charge. Gamble responsibly. See www.net.
Welcome back. So from a position where he was generally acclaimed as the world's best goalkeeper since 2018, give or take, there have been question marks over David De Gea. There have been some bad and eye-catching mistakes in that World Cup included. The Ronaldo goal in particular stood out. And Project Restart has not been so kind to De Gea on opening night, that Friday night against Spurs. Roy Keane took him to task at half-time.
I wouldn't even let him on the bus after the match. Get a taxi back to Manchester. These are established international players, and we're all sitting here, and I know we have to analyse the game. Analyse it till the cows come home. You do your job. We're trying to get in the top four. Not win leagues, by the way. We're just on about getting in the top four. God forbid about winning trophies. Shocking. I am disgusted with it. And I am sick to death of this goalkeeper. I would be fighting him at half-time. There's no getting away from that. I would be swinging punches at that guy. This is a standard stay for an established international goalkeeper. That goalkeeper, I am fed up. That De Gea, the most overrated goalkeeper.
No, okay.
Preece, the most overrated goalkeeper I've seen in a long, long time.
Did he do anything to restore his reputation with the save from Son?
No. I'd save this. This is not even going in the this not even going in the top corner.
You've been harsh on this one.
This is middle of the goal.
I think it's a great, but I think it's a great save. You need to be ready. It's coming quick.
If that is not a great save, that's his job. It's middle of the goal. It's good height for him.
You're being harsh. This one you're being harsh. I think it's a great save.
That.
I think it's a good. Oh, you should be catching that.
Catching that, yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
Why, he's going to play with some glue on his gloves?
It's not even that high. It's middle of the goal.
Now, I'm not sure if Preece and Roy Keane caught up yesterday, but there was this.
This is Cesar Azpilicueta again for Giroud. Oh, and it's found a way through. Chelsea's in-form striker does it again in this competition. It's a really well-delivered cross. It's an excellent finish. But should David De Gea do a bit better here? I think he should. That's good pressure there from James, and he's given it away to Mason Mount. And Mount just lining up the shot, and it's found a way through De Gea. Oh, what a time to score right at the start of the second half. That's a big mistake from De Gea. Mason Mount makes it 2-0 for Chelsea. Too many mistakes now from De Gea.
For more, we're joined by David Preece, a former goalkeeper, over 250 professional appearances. He's now working as a coach over in Sweden with Östersunds, and you'll know him from his media work as well. David, great to have you on. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So just to set the context here, I think we all know just how good De Gea was, but I want to get your thoughts on how you rated him. Signed for United in 2011, 4 times United's Player of the Year. Real Madrid obviously were chasing him relentlessly for a period there. When he was at his best, are we talking about the best goalkeeper in the world here?
Yeah, I think so. And I think when you talk about world-class goalkeepers, you're talking about keepers who make a big difference to the side. And for, I think, 3 or 4 seasons, you just got to look at the stats. His performances meant that he was saving his side 10 to 14 goals every season, and that can be huge. It make it, especially at the top of the division, it can make a huge difference. And in the time that he was under Louis van Gaal, of course, he was the football was maybe not great, but he was given a precise job to do, almost similar to the job that Nick Pope does with Burnley. And he did it very well. And from that perspective, like I said, he's world class in making a difference to his team.
He went to the World Cup in 2018 seemingly at the top of his game. There was the goal he conceded from the Ronaldo shot, dreadful error, by his standards. And it's generally agreed that since then we've seen a slump or a propensity to make some really high-profile mistakes that he wasn't making before. So statistically, for instance, if you go back to the start of last season, there have been 7 errors leading directly to goals, in so much as whoever puts the statistics together judges these things. But 7 errors leading directly to goals in the Premier League alone, and only Newcastle's Dubravka has made more of those types of mistakes. That's an unbelievable turnaround. What are you seeing with this guy's game at the moment?
I think in his all-round game, you know, if you look over the last, say, 6-7 months, certainly to the start of December, you know, you have a keeper who, in between these mistakes, is not conceding many goals. I think from the start of the year, they conceded 16 goals. 9 of those have been 3 games against Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool. So there is spells where the team's not conceding goals. Now, of course, that's down to defence as well. I think, except for Wolves, they've limited sides to the least amount of quality chances in the Premier League. So of course that helps. But again, that puts a big onus on the goalkeeper being there when he's needed. And it has to be said, you know, you can say about mistakes or errors that people have flagged up, but it's the goals that are just below that level, the goals where you think that a keeper of his level should be saving, and there's been far too many of those. You know, you have the big errors, the error against Everton where he strikes the ball off Calvert-Lewin. You have the goal at Watford where it inexplicably goes through his hands. But again, like the first goal against Chelsea yesterday, that is a save that 3 or 4 years ago he was making. Now, we can talk about techniques and things like that, but the first thing that stops him from saving the ball is his decision-making. This decision-making in his reaction to a response to the problem that's in front of him. Like I said, the first goal would be one that he'd save, that he'd come, maybe spread himself more, be more aggressive and block and be closer to the finish so he doesn't leave as much open. And the second goal, again, we can see it's technique. His arms should be further away from his body, and when your arms are close into your body, it's much more difficult to catch the ball. And we can say these are technique, but it's probably just like I said, decision making, that it's that where things have you know, whether it's situations, whether it's the mistakes that are accumulating, that's what's affecting him, and it's affecting his decision-making process and leading to these mistakes. And like I said, that they're not even the huge mistakes. The near post goal from a few weeks ago, where he's caught slightly out of position. You know, you're looking at a very tight angle. If you draw a line from the ball to the centre of the goal, that really should be ideal positioning. But he was slightly off centre, and you know, you leave the tiniest gap. And at this level, in Premier League level, you're going to get punishes. There's consequences to these imperfections.
So that's the Stanislas goal you're talking about, the one at the near post.
Yeah,
and then yesterday, the first goal, again at the near post, you're saying his decision-making. So he'd be more aggressive, he'd be off his line more, he'd spread himself more. That's the point you're making, is it?
Yeah, I mean, like the technique they employed in that Stanislas goal, it's the right technique to use. He has a great blocking technique. He covers a lot of the goal. There's it's like I don't know, you can put it like a K. He puts his body in a position like the letter K, and so it stops it going through his legs, and it gives him a chance to keep his face forward and to react with his arms as well. But it's about employing those tactics at the right time. It's about, you know, are you close enough for it to be effective? And again, from yesterday, you know, if he can be a little bit more aggressive in his positioning, where he's closer to the finish and he employs that technique, then he gives Giroud less of the goal to aim at. And in that position where he's a little bit deeper, he's maybe trying to give himself a little bit of time to react. But of course, it's that close, a little bit of any pace on the ball, it doesn't have to be a great shot there to beat you.
Generally, all sports people, when they talk about decision-making, if they're confident, decision-making is one of the most natural and easiest aspects of the game, whatever the sport, and yet when they're low on confidence or they're having psychological issues, whatever they may be, suddenly that decision-making becomes very conscious and very difficult, and they are unsure of themselves. So that would suggest there is some confidence slump with De Gea, which is ongoing now for quite a while. That's the worrying part here. I mean, if we wouldn't have done this piece a year ago, and certainly not 2 years ago, on the back of a couple of mistakes. It's actually just, it's added up over quite a long period of time now, and it makes you worry that this guy isn't going to find his way out of this.
Well, that's it. I think a lot of people in sort of athletics and in sport in general, they talk about being in the zone, and it's almost a state where everything's just automatic, and there's no you don't have to think about anything. You immediately respond to the problem that's in front and the challenge that's in front of you. But I think that's when you've got to look further afield to just the coaching. Goalkeeping coaches can have an influence, but they would never take ownership of a performance. Performance is entirely down to the goalkeeper. He's had lots of changes in this in the 11 years that he's been at United. I mean, you're looking at probably 5 goalkeeping coaches in that time. He's had very experienced. We talked about the time at under Louis van Gaal. He had Frans Hoek, who's a godfather of goalkeeping coaching. So maybe he did have an influence there. He lost his mentor from his early days at Atletico Madrid. Was brought in by Jose Mourinho. He left the club under a little bit of a cloud. There's some rumours of the club weren't happy with his behaviour, and now he has Rich Hartless, who's head of the goalkeeper at Manchester United now, and Craig Mawson, who's been brought from Burnley. So there's changes in the background there, but to get in this, you talk about the mindset of an athlete to get into this zone. A lot of it can be to do with preparation and how you approach the games, and there's been lots of things around it. The contract situation for a couple of seasons, the on-off move to Madrid, to Real, and all these can play a part. But ultimately, it's responsibility of it doesn't matter who you are, goalkeeper, athlete, tennis player. You have to get in that frame of mind, that mindset to perform. And we can all take as goalkeepers. We can accept mistakes. In fact, we must know that mistakes are going to be made. But it's dealing with those mistakes and what happens in between those mistakes. And if you've got a keeper who makes the odd mistake, which we all do, but in between the payoff is somebody who has an effect on the team, a positive effect on the team, then they can be swept under the carpet. But like I said, there's too many high-profile mistakes and too many situations. I hate the phrase where he should do better, but that's simply the case.
Mark Bosnich was talking about his technique, and he said from a technical point of view he seems to be pushing all his balance going forward with his feet, especially for the second goal yesterday. That's the Mason Mount one. You pretty much saw that again. That's why he dived backwards. Once you start diving backwards as a goalkeeper, you're in big trouble. And there is no doubt, when I watch him, a defining image is often him on his heels, feet ready to come up to help with the save. Now, it seemed for a number of years this was celebrated as his own brilliant, authentic way of going about his business, and that worked from then. So, I don't know, do you look at his... This is a strange thing to say about the keeper who was the best in the world for a time. Do you look at his fundamentals and think they are liable technically to let him down? They are high wire acts?
I think you sort of made a great point there, because we can always say that with his technique that his arm swing can be a hindrance, his wide leg stance that seems to have adopted in the last couple of seasons can be a hindrance. But those are the same techniques that have gotten to where he is, and that can enable him to make great saves. The arm swing, you can see it employed when he's famous for that save up to his top left-hand corner where he does the overhand, a top-hand save. It doesn't affect him when he's making those sort of saves. And Mark's right about that. It's when you look at diving technique, of course, in a perfect situation that you are diving forward, but there's much more of the mechanics that goes into that. A lot of it's head position. If your head's going forward, then your whole body follows obviously. But again, like I said, about in that instance catching the ball further out in front of you, it makes a hell of a difference, simply because you can adjust to anything like a bouncing ball, any movement on the ball, you can adjust. Whereas your arms are closer into your body, you tend to go backwards. That's the motion that you're going to be making. And then it's much more difficult to hold the ball when it comes in here, and you often find that it comes away from you and you're giving up second chances, or it's going straight in the net as it did yesterday.
So when is it one mistake too many? When you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and you've got two absolutely crucial games coming up and you've got Romero there, who maybe isn't capable of making the spectacular save that De Gea is, but at the same time is maybe unlikely to drop in a clanger?
I think in this situation, there's obviously politics involved as well, because, you know, David De Gea is top earner at Manchester United, possibly the top earner in the Premier League. There's a lot of investment gone into him. But you're right, you know, they need results to try and get themselves in the Champions League. Romero is an experienced goalkeeper. Very rarely let them down in the situations that he's being brought in. And again, if he was brought into the team, that would be the same situation. But as regards to further down the line in the future, like I said, there's been a big financial outlay to David De Gea in his new contract and keep him at the club. But if he's not performing at the level that he was when that contract was warranted, then they have to look at the situation and they have to see that it's not financially viable, especially when they have a keeper who's performing in a limited time. You know, we have to say this about Dean. He's come through League One, Championship, and Premier League now. He's performed consistently at each level, but it's a very small sort of space of time where he's performed at this high level. So it's perhaps a little bit too early to say that he's the one that's going to be the number one down the line ahead of De Gea.
Yeah.
But it's certainly a situation that they need to look at.
Do you look at De Gea and just worry that his confidence is shot, to put a crude way of summing it up? And that's not to say he won't have very good games here and there, but that he just fundamentally is damaged now. These mistakes have accrued and he hasn't managed to deal with them, because that is the big worry right now.
It is, and you know what, for a goalkeeper and a goalkeeper watching someone who you could see who, like you said, is shot and devoid of confidence, there's nothing worse to watch. It's almost, you can cringe, you can feel the emotions that are going on inside them. But I think that at this level, someone like David De Gea, with all his experience, I don't get that feeling at all.
Okay.
And you know, like I said, in between these mistakes, you're still seeing the David De Gea that we saw 3 or 4 years ago. But again, it's about consistency. And these mistakes, like I said, he's not showing to me outwardly that he's unconfident. But it's certainly something that, you know, we've spoken about Joe Hart before and about what he's went through, and having maybe he's trying to reset the button to press the reset button to go again and rebuild himself and try and break his game down again. And sometimes you've got to be humble enough to be able to do that and see that's what's needed.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see the next week for starters, and then where De Gea's career goes. David Preece, thanks so much for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. We'll take a break.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. Less flashy than a Jurgen Klopp smile, but just as effective. Gamble responsibly. See www.lut.net.
The Pat Kenny Show.
On tomorrow's programme, author David Mitchell on Utopia Avenue, Amber Heard in the witness box in London, riders of the pandemic, Henry McKean takes to the bike, the cybersecurity threat to this country, and of course, the breaking news.
The Pat Kenny